Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, Gleespen Designs. My name's Misty, and in today's video, I've taken a bunch of super common Dollar Tree items, you know, the ones you see every time you go into Dollar Tree, and I've turned them into stunning home decor. So let's get crafting. One thing my Dollar Tree always has is this huge wall of tons of decorative boxes or little gift boxes. They just have tons of different styles and different sizes. I decided to go with this one. I really liked the look of this one already, so I could have left it and just added some things to it because it already had that suitcase look to it, but I wanted to add my own details, and I also wanted to give it a leather look so that it would look more like an actual suitcase and not that shiny look that it had before. I started by painting the outside of the decorative box with the matte nutmeg apple barrel paint. I'm also going to place a little bit of water into a bowl and then use the burnt umber apple barrel paint and just mix that up. Now I'm going to take a a plastic bag, and just crumble it up into my hand. Then I'm going to take that paint and water mixture and just dab it all over the plastic bag. You mainly only want to get the water on top of like the surfaces where you've scrunched the bag up. You want to put enough paint on there so that once you start pouncing it onto the project, it's going to leave all these little spots, but you don't want the bag to be so soaked with paint that it's just going to kind of put big old blobs and not these little spots that we actually need. The more you pounce on the project with the bag, the more texture and the more realistic I at least think that the leather look is going to be. So again, I just went all the way around the outside of the decorative box, and as you can see, it kind of has like a faux leather look. If I'm being honest, if I had some of the Dollar Tree faux leather, like, you know, the big strips that you can get, I definitely would have wrapped this and it would have looked even better. Right here, all I'm doing is adding a little bit of hot glue where the seam is. It was kind of lifting up, so I just glued it back down. I want this suitcase to look like it is propped open, so all I'm going to do is take one of these little balsa wood pieces. I get them in a big pack off of Amazon. I will have them linked in products or in the description box down below. And all I did was take that brown paint and water mixture. I stained this and then cut it down to size. Once it was dry, I started to get ahead of myself, and I was just so excited about actually gluing the top on there. I took this piece, and what I'm going to do is add some glue on the back, and then I'm going to glue it right at the back here, but at the very, very edge. And then I'll actually glue it onto there, but I started to do it, and then right when I went to place that on there, thank goodness I stopped myself. As you can see, I did not glue the top on because I was thinking, you know, I should probably put all my little accessory pieces on here before I actually glue the top on and glue it all together. So that's why I did not glue the top on right then. I did stop myself, but you do want to glue that balsa wood, or you can use a dowel rod right there to the back because that is what you're going to eventually glue the lid to. Another thing Dollar Tree usually has a ton of is their decorative stickers and just fun little stencils that they have, and I found a ton of these different, I don't even know what in the world they really are. Some of them are crosses, and then some of them are just different detail pieces that you can use on projects. And honestly, you guys, I just started taking them and just placing them wherever I kind of felt like they would look like they kind of belonged there, or at least it looked nice to me. And that is just all I did. I just went around and just started gluing. You can do as many little detail pieces as you would like. There is even more at Dollar Tree that I wish I had in my stash because they were like the perfect pieces, but I had to work with what I had. And I think this actually turned out so adorable. And you could even do this like paint it white and give it a really nice bright look to it, or kind of even more of like that modern farmhouse look. I think it would just absolutely turn out gorgeous. Once I had all my little details on there, I'm going to start wanting to try and figure out how I'm going to make this look like it is a suitcase put up on little tiny legs. I know you guys have seen where they've made over suitcases and turned them into like little stands or little tables. Well, that's kind of the look that I was going for. So I just took some of those wood Dollar Tree angels. I took the paper wings off of them, and then I'm using a paint marker, and I'm just using the metallic gold color, and I'm going to color the entire thing, as well as 4 of these beads. These are also from a pack from Dollar Tree, and I paint those gold as well with the paint pen. These little angels many times for little feet or legs on trays or stands, but what I want to do is, the reason why I painted those large wood beads is because I'm gluing the angel to the bottom of the wood bead so that my legs are going to be longer and not so teeny tiny, and I'll actually be able to get this a little bit up more off the ground than if I were to just use the little angels like I've done previously. So I just again made the legs longer, and now I'm going to go ahead and glue each one down, one on each of the 4 corners. And once all the legs were on, this project was pretty much complete. You could put whatever you want inside of here. You could add some fake succulents, some flowers, greenery. However, one thing that I kind of thought about using is, recently at Dollar Tree, I found these decorative ball or decor balls, it says on the bag, and for $1.25 is now, like, that's a really good deal for all of these. These pieces here are all just from one bag, and they are all like real, authentic, like they're not plastic or anything like that. And each bag has a few of the same pieces, but they also have some different pieces. Like that first bag I showed you guys had this, but it did not have this little spiral piece here. It also did not have any of like the coconut bark or coconut husk over on the side there. It did not have as many of these sponges. So I just placed whichever ones I personally wanted inside, along with one of the LED balls that I made previously. And I love how this turned out. For this project, I'm starting out with 4 of these larger Dollar Tree crates, and these are in the Crafter Square section, and I promise you there are different sizes. So you want to get the largest one, and you want to make sure that you get 4. You could also do more or less of this, and you just get the amount that you want, and you want to make sure, again, that they are all the same size. So 2 of these boxes, I'm going to use my heat gun, and I'm going to remove one side, and then 2 of the boxes, I'm going to take my heat gun and remove both of the sides. So therefore, I have 2 with just one side and 2 with no sides. Do not have a heat gun, grab a hair dryer. You might have to hold it there just a little bit longer, but the heat from the blow dryer or hair dryer is going to warm up that glue so that you can then push on it and just pull that side right off. Once I had all the sides removed that I needed, and I also went ahead and painted this white off camera, all of them I just painted with some white chalk paint, and now you can see that you can place these so that they are all going to connect together and create one piece. To hold these together, I'm going to be using these bamboo sticks that I got off of Amazon. You guys know I always use these. I don't think I have really made many videos without using these at least one point or time in my video. So I'm going to I also painted them white as well. I figured you guys did not necessarily have to see that. You guys know what it looks like when we paint something. So I just painted it off camera to cut some time because this video is pretty long. And if you stay the whole time, I truly appreciate you. If you don't, I completely understand. So I'm going to take these bamboo sticks and I'm just going to cut them. Well, my other phone just went off. Anyways, I'm just going to go ahead and cut them into pieces so that I can start adhering these boxes together all into one piece. So as you've seen, I like to take one of the bamboo sticks and place it kind of down by the bottom of the boxes. And then like this one here, I do take and place up at the top, and then I'll take another one and place it close down by the bottom. And some of them I even place in the center crease or seam there so that it is also nice and secure in that spot as well. Now that I have the boxes all glued together so that they look like they are all one piece, I'm going to be taking these Dollar Tree rub-on transfers. They look like they are a wood, like faux wood. So pretty. I mean, they don't look faux, they look real. They're so pretty, and I'm going to be using this gray weathered wood look here. I think it is so pretty, and I'm just going to be placing it only on the sides. So I just cut it in half so that I could use one piece for both of my sides. And I'm just going to peel off the backing, place this right onto the side of the wood crate, and then I'm just going to start rubbing this away. And as you kind of rub this down, I like to kind of pull up, then rub a little bit more, pull the paper backing, or not paper backing, but the plastic front, I guess, part off here like you see me doing. And then I will rub a little bit more and then pull it a little bit more until it actually eventually comes off. And it's kind of a weird angle to show you guys. So here is how it kind of looks once I pulled that off. I do have to take my finger and go around and just knock off any of the excess. And I do take my finger and also pop out the inside center where the handle is on the crate. And then once I'm done with that side, I do repeat the same process on the other side. Sorry, you guys, I'm losing my voice. I repeat the same process just by placing it on. I rub it down with either like a credit card, or you see me using a craft stick there, and then I just pull it off and wipe off any of the excess pieces that I no longer need. If you would like to, you can put a coat of Mod Podge over this just to seal it. I again put in some of these decorative balls from Dollar Tree, and I am so obsessed with how this turned out. Not only am I obsessed, but here's the thing. These projects are totally giving off a very early, subtle fall vibe, and I am totally here for it. I don't know about you guys, but I am all for those cozy feels, and once the fall season does get here, I could take those decorative balls out and put in some pumpkins, little hay bales, fall florals would be really cute, and you could also place in some Christmas items around Christmas time and change them out for each season and each holiday. Project is definitely one of my favorites, and I'm going to start off with 6 of these Dollar Tree 4x6 canvases. Now, all we really need from these canvases are the actual frames, so we are going to need to remove the actual canvas portion. So we have to go through and remove all of these staples going all the way around the canvas frame. And the tool I'm using, I do not recommend. I thought it was going to be a lot smaller and a lot easier to use, but this I don't believe is actually for like craft room nails like you see me doing. And along with those 6 4x6 canvases, I do also take these 2 long shaped canvases. I do not know the dimensions. I'm sorry. I want to say they're like 3 by maybe 11 or something like that. They're very long, but not very wide. So I'm going to take these and also remove the staples and the canvas portion as well. Both of these did also have the crocodile hanger. I just removed that just by popping it out using a Dollar Tree Cricut spatula. And then I'm also going to go ahead and go around each and every one of the canvas frames with some sandpaper just to make sure everything was nice and smooth. I decided it would be a lot easier to paint the project before actually putting it all together, at least this bottom coat, which I am going to be taking some black paint and I'm going to paint every single one of the canvases, the small ones and those longer, like other two that I showed you guys. So all 8 of the canvases total, as you see here. And then I'm also going to be taking one of these Dollar Tree hanging wall shelves, and I'm just using the wood from it, and I paint it black as well. Once all the pieces were painted and dry, it is now time to assemble, and that wood shelf I'm actually going to be using as my base. It's not the exact dimensions, but I actually like the fact that it sticks out a little bit on either side. You'll see once the final project is complete exactly what I mean. But with those 6 4x6 canvases, you want to take 3 of them, and we are going to attach those 3 together. You kind of see me playing around with them because they're not all perfectly like exactly the same. So you just play around with them and see which ones fit better with other ones. And then you are going to glue those together. And I did 2 sets of 3 of those canvases. Those 2 sets of 3 done, we now have our walls and our base or floor to this. And to attach the walls, I'm going to be adding some Gorilla Glue, hot glue. I should have used some wood glue as well, or at least some stronger adhesive. And I'm just going to place it right on the edge in the middle. As you can see, that base, that bottom wood shelf on either side, it will stick out a little bit. I personally like that. I feel like it just makes the project look a little bigger, as well as really just makes it kind of all pull together. But I'm just taking both of those side pieces and gluing them on either side. Now, when it comes time to make the roof, we now have our longer, we're just going to call 3x11 canvas frames, and we need to attach them up here, kind of like how I just showed. So I have these, I believe they are a 1/2 inch square dowel, and these I purchased off of Amazon. I painted it black just like I did the rest of it. And now, as you can see, because it's square, I can kind of just place it right here perfectly in this like edge or gap here. And then once I adhere it, it will go on top of our piece just like this. Now, before I glue my roof pieces all together, I want to create more of a side look on this piece. So I'm going to be taking these bamboo dowel sticks and I just place them on either side and then mark down where I need to cut. I don't necessarily, I mean, you can measure if you want. You can also just grab another one of those 4x6 canvases and you could just glue the frame onto the side. But instead of spending the money, I just figured I would add these side pieces on using the dowel rods or these bamboo sticks that I already have. I have tons of different types. So I just figured I would use what I already had at home instead of purchasing and spending some more money. So again, I just painted the bamboo stick black like the rest of the piece. And then once I have them all cut down to the size that I need, I do go back in and glue them all into place. And I just placed one down here at the bottom and one up at the top. But of course, I could not stop and just had to add some more detail. So I took those same black bamboo sticks and I just kind of made a window shape with them. I guess that's the best way to explain it. You know, there's one horizontally and then there's one vertically. I thought about doing an X shape with these bamboo sticks on the sides of this project, but I just went ahead with the I guess I'll call it the plus sign, where it's just the up and down and then the left and right. And it just made this project stand out even more and gave it a much more finished look. This is also where I made sure to glue down the other bamboo sticks on the top and the bottom. Once I had those sides complete, now I can show you guys exactly how I glued the top roof part together. And I'm going to take those two longer canvases. I add some glue to one side of the canvas, and then I glue that bamboo stick. Actually, it's not even bamboo, it's a wood square dowel right onto the top of there. And then I'm going to add some glue onto the side of it and place the other canvas on that side. And now the roof looks like it has this nice finished top to it, and it fits on here perfectly. I decided not to glue this down. I want to be able to remove it to place things in and take things back out. Like I had mentioned previously, I painted this all black originally so that this is my base color and the color that is going to kind of show through when I do a heavy dry brushing of this white chalk paint and baking soda mixture, and it is just going to give it a little bit of texture. If you want to leave it black, by all means, go ahead and do that. I painted it black just so that I did not have to go in like I am here and try and paint this entire thing after I put it together. So do as much painting as you possibly can before you put it together. Now, because this is textured paint, I did have to just go ahead and paint it after being put together, but here's how it looks once it is completely dry, and then I can place the roof right on top. Okay, don't hate me, but before I show you guys this project fully complete, I want to make a few little projects to put inside of it, so here we go. To make a cute little farmhouse watering can that I can put some regular greenery in, but also take those greenery out and place in some fall greenery or even Christmas ones, or even spring for next year. So I had that little metal watering can, and then I believe I got that from Family Dollar or Dollar General. I have seen them at Dollar Tree like that, but so there's plenty of places that you can definitely pick them up. So these rub on transfers I got in a pack off of Amazon, and as you can see, each page has its own little animal and farmhouse theme, and I just kind of went through and picked out some of the lettering that I liked, and then just kept narrowing it down until I found one that I wanted. So once I figured it out, and actually I thought I was going to use this one, and that is what I actually prepped the can for. And then for whatever reason, I ended up grabbing a different one. And I guess it was a happy mistake because I actually really liked how it turned out. So I wanted the rub-on transfer to really stand out and kind of also give this a little bit of a rustic look to it or distressed look to it. So I just took some of that chalk paint and baking soda mixture that I had used previously and just dry brushed a good bit of that on there, gave it time to dry, and then I cut out this, what is this, Farmer's Market. And again, I totally went left when I decided to grab the stencil that I was actually going to use, and I grabbed this one instead, but it actually turned out adorable. So again, happy accident here, no complaints, but it did turn out super cute. And all I had to do was just like any other rub-on transfer, I just had to rub it down and peel off the backing. I did notice I kind of messed the E up, so I just had to place it back down and can just continue to rub it, and it transferred on. If you'd like to add a top coat of Mod Podge, you absolutely can do that just to make sure that the letters stay on very well. I did not worry about that, just mainly for video purposes, also because I'm only really going to be touching it when I change the florals out, so I wasn't too worried about wear and tear. And then all I did was just place in some greenery, and that was it. Okay, just one more project, and then I will show you guys all three of these projects together. For this project, I wanted to create a little mini moss ball topiary for inside my terrarium that I made. So I started out with just a dowel that I had in my stash that I had painted black previously, and then I had a styrofoam ball. I placed the styrofoam ball onto that dowel, and then I'm just going to start taking some hot glue and some moss from Dollar Tree and just cover the entire ball with that moss. And all you have to do is just kind of patch it to where you add a little bit of hot glue here and there. I just placed it down inside the bag and pushed it and rolled it around, and it ended up working perfectly. You can use these silicone makeup sponges, or not makeup sponges, but makeup like silicone brushes from Dollar Tree, just to push the moss down on there, and then you have a lot less likelihood of burning your fingers, which I did do quite a bit. Even though I had the silicone spatula, I still decided to use my fingers and burn myself. So do as I say and definitely not as I do. Depending on the size of the ball for your topiary is the amount of moss you're going to put on there. If you want it larger, just add some more moss, and the more you add, the larger it will get. Now, I did want to take some brown paint, and this is the burnt umber brown paint, and I'm just painting over top of that black paint just so that it's not so dark. And then I kind of had the idea of, do you know how some of those topiaries have kind of like these round, not round, but these vines that wrap around the trunk of the topiary? Well, that's kind of the look that I'm going for, and I decided to try and use some of this, I believe it's the Dollar Tree Spanish moss, and I'm just going to grab a good bit of it and kind of put it in a line as much as I can, and then I'm just going to start rubbing it back and forth between my hands to just kind of intertwine it with itself so that it becomes more of kind of like a rope, I guess you could say. I'm just trying to get it to where it's all one piece and it kind of looks like some vining. And if I needed to, I did go in and just add little dabs of hot glue here and there to just kind of get it to where it stays in place. As you see, I kind of twist it here, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of hot glue to hold it. And I just kind of keep forming it into the vine, I guess you could say, that I was envisioning in my mind. Once I was happy with the look of my vine, I knew I was going to need a teeny tiny little pot to place this into, and I had this little succulent pot from Dollar Tree. It already had a cute little saying on it, and I'm just going to cut down that dowel rod and then add some hot glue so that it stays in place. And I'm also going to take some hot glue, place it down inside the little planter, and then add some Spanish moss to that down there as well. And then to attach my vine, I just placed a little dab of hot glue up underneath the moss ball. And then I'm going to start wrapping it around that, we'll just say it's the trunk of the topiary, the bamboo dowel rod stick that I placed inside the foam ball. I'm just going to start taking that vine and wrapping it around, and once I have the look of it, I'm just going to cut off the excess and hot glue it down there in place. Once I had my vine wrapped around and the excess cut off, all I had to do was just shove this down into the foam that was already in the planter, and this DIY was done. And finally, here is how the last 3 projects turned out. For this project, I have this wood tray. It actually came in a 3-pack. Each size was a little bit bigger. This is the smallest one. And instead of using it as a tray, which I do want to add, I got this from Big Lots. Again, it was in a 3-pack and they were 90% off, so I got a really good deal. Now, I want to take this tray and turn it into a wall shelf. So I just took a blank wood piece from Dollar Tree and just marked where I needed to cut it. I used my saw, which I will show a little bit later on, to cut that wood piece down, and now I'm just using some black matte apple barrel paint and painting this entire wood piece black. Once my wood piece was dry, I can just slide it into this tray. It does stick out a little bit, but that is exactly what I wanted. I wanted more of a space to be able to put things on it, and it just was a little too shallow for me, and I just made sure that the shelf stuck out a little bit. You can cut it so that it is the exact width of your tray, but I decided not to. Once I slid that in place, you can go ahead and use a leveler to make sure that is level. I just used my eyeballs and that was good enough for me. So to make sure this stays into place even more, I'm going to take these balsa wood dowels, and they are the square dowel. I painted it black so that it blends in, and then I'm just going to hold it up and mark where I need to cut it. I use some scissors. This balsa wood is super easy to cut, so I just use some scissors to kind of mark and cut it down where I needed it to be. Now, where I cut this down at, you could see some of the original wood color, so I did just go ahead and add some black paint on that. And then instead of using the piece that I already had painted black, I did go ahead and flip this over so that I have that nice factory edge cut on that balsa wood piece. And then I could use that factory edge cut where it is really nice and straight to put on the outside of my piece, just so that it looks a little bit more clean and finished. Where I'm cutting it at with my scissors, it kind of leaves it a little bit jagged, even if you sand it down. So just having that really nice fresh cut on the outside just gives this piece a more, I guess, higher end finished, more, I don't know, not so janky look, I guess. Anyways, I just glued the balsa wood pieces on each side up underneath the wood, and that was done. And you guys, I'm actually thinking about doing this to the other 2 trays, turning them into shelves as well. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Okay, let me start off by saying I love, love, love how these turned out, but man, this project made me so mad at the end. First, I'm going to start off with 2 of these Dollar Tree wood pieces. They are just the rectangle wood pieces from Dollar Tree, and I want to stain them with a faux stain. So I'm just using some apple barrel burnt umber paint and a little bit of water to mix some faux stain together. Absolutely more than welcome to use regular stain. I just personally like the faux stain because there's no harsh chemicals, icky smells, and it dries super duper quick. First, I made my stain a little bit too dark. I did a little test patch in the back. That's always a good idea to do. So I just added a little bit more water that is going to water it down and make it not so dark. So the more paint you add, the darker it's going to be, and the more water you add, the lighter it is going to be. And as you can see, I'm just taking a paintbrush and just slapping this on like you would any other regular stain. If you would like it lighter, you can go over it with a paper towel or a baby wipe. I personally just put it on like paint and let it dry. As you can see, it works just as good as normal stain. So what I did is I did both of these wood pieces with that faux stain and completely covered both of them. Make sure you don't forget those sides and then set it off to dry. Next, I'm going to be taking one of these Dollar Tree cloches. This is the larger size. Dollar Tree does carry two different sizes, a larger one and a smaller one. I'm just going to remove the base. We are not going to need that. And we are also going to remove the sticker. Goodness, the sticker on these usually come off very easily. Next, I'm going to be taking some of this very thin electrical tape. I did pick this up off of Amazon a while back. This stuff is like great to use for striping or just like pinstripes or even something like I'm doing here. If you want to, you can use washi tape and just paint it black or whichever color that you would like. So I'm going to take this thin electrical tape and I start from one side going around the, what the heck is that thing called again? Cloche. Yes, the cloche. We're going to take the electrical tape, start from one end, go all the way down the bottom, and at the curve on the bottom or top originally of this, there is a little teeny tiny circle. So if you start like how I'm starting here on the side, I'm going to place it right here and then take it down the side, and as I wrap it around the bottom, there's a little circle right where it kind of comes to an X. That's going to help you make sure that you're getting it nice and centered. With that electrical tape, I just made two stripes, one going one way and then the other direction. You can do more if you would like as well. And once I have those 4 stripes done, or technically 2, I'm going to start taking another piece of that electrical tape, and you can kind of place this wherever you want. I did one closer towards the top of the dome and then one down closer towards the bottom. And I just took it and wrapped it going all the way around the cloche. Again, like this one here, I'm doing up at closer towards the top of that dome portion. And then this one here, I will come down a little bit closer towards the bottom and wrap that all the way around. One little tip that I noticed when doing this is when starting a new piece of that electrical tape, I always started it on top of another piece just so that you didn't see where the electrical tape started and stopped. This DIY project is an inspiration piece from these caged lantern wall sconces that I found from Kirkland's. They were $20.99 just for one of them, and I figured if I had a Dollar Tree, oh gosh, what the heck is that thing called? A wreath hanger. You know the wreath hangers that you can hang over your door? Well, I think that shape up here at the top of the original Kirkland's wall sconces, I could definitely make out of one of the wreath hangers, over the door wreath hangers from Dollar Tree. But instead, I had these curtain rod holders. They came from a super cheap pack from the dollar store, and I just took these, hot glued them down onto each one of the wood pieces, and I did wipe off the excess, and I did that to both of the wood pieces. Now that the wood pieces and hangers are done, we can work on the lights, and I'm using one of these Dollar Tree LED hanging lanterns. Normally they have a light bulb on them, but I used that in a previous video. All you have to do is just unscrew the plastic light bulb and it exposes the fairy lights. Kind of trying to hold the fairy lights down, but they were not happening to stay down at all. So I just kind of twisted them around, and then I'm going to add some Gorilla Glue hot glue right on the edge of the cloche, and now I'm going to tip it upside down and place it on top of the LED light, and now we have this hanging lantern. Once I glued the top on, I did notice that I did not really like the fact that there was that white up at the top where the switch and the battery is. So I hung it on there to kind of see if you'd be able to see it. And once I didn't really like the look of it, so I just took a black paint pen and colored that in. And once you have that colored, all you have to do is hang these onto the hangers on the wood and add a sawtooth hanger, and this project is done. Okay, really quickly, remember in the beginning when I said I was kind of mad at the end of this project? Well, on these little lights from Dollar Tree, they have that metal wire hanger. Well, unfortunately I lost one of them. So for this one here, I just had to kind of make my own. It does not look as good as the other side, but I'm going to try and find it. And if I can't find it, then I'll just buy a new little light to kind of switch out and it will look great. So I wanted to point out that I do love these and I really like the farmhouse, but industrial, but also rustic vibe. I just truly love these. I got the idea for this project by doing my little mini topiary for my terrarium, so I wanted to make one a little bit bigger to put on a shelf or with some of my other topiaries. So what I'm using is a ping pong ball from Dollar Tree, as well as one of these boxwood picks from Dollar Tree. I do end up using two of these picks. I start off by taking one and completely pulling all of the greenery pieces off, and then I also go in and just cut off those little bits that are connected to the stem of the greenery. And then you want to pay attention to, if you're using a ping pong ball, you want to pay attention to where that hole is because that is where we will be placing our dowel. So try not to cover up the hole. You can also use a piece of like a styrofoam ball or whatever you would like to use. So I'm going to be taking this greenery from Dollar Tree and I'm just placing some hot glue all over that ping pong ball and just pushing the greenery down, wrapping it around the ball. And I do this so that it is completely covered. And the first kind of wrap around with the first set of greenery, I really push it down onto the ball using that silicone spatula and my fingers, which I should not have done because, again, I got burnt quite a few times. So use those little finger protectors from Dollar Tree. But for the second set of greenery that I placed on the ball, I didn't really necessarily push all of the greenery pieces down. I kind of just glued it onto there so that the ball actually had a fuller look. As you can see here, you now see that the ball is bigger and much fuller. For my topiaries pot, I have another one of these little pots from a Dollar Tree succulent. I always keep the little pots, they come in handy, and I didn't really care for the color and also that plastic look, so I just took the paint and baking soda, or yeah, baking soda mixture that I've been using throughout the entire video, and I'm just going to very messily put this on there. I don't really want it to look perfect. I like that not so perfect look and all of the texture. So now I just put a little dowel rod in there just to kind of show me where the hole is and so that I can figure out how big I wanted this dowel rod, which I picked up from Walmart, and I just cut it down to size with my saw. That is the saw that I use for almost all of my wood projects. I'm sure you guys know by now, but all of the things that I use from Amazon, I will have linked down below in the description box or in products. So I wanted to give this dowel rod more of a tree trunk look to it, so I just took that burnt umber and water mixture and stained the dowel rod with that mixture. And then I wanted to also create a vine look on this topiary as well, kind of like these pictures here and the ones that I showed previously. And I decided for this one I was going to use this rope. It is actually a wired rope, so it's actually going to help out once I need to wrap it around. Well, it had a lot of little straggly hairs, so I just held a lighter up to it and burnt those away. And then I'm going to take again the burnt umber paint and water and just kind of add some color to this to have it blend in a little bit more with the tree trunk. Doing this will also make it so that it looks a lot less like rope on wire. I set the rope off to dry and now my pot is dry, so I'm going to take this half styrofoam ball. It was originally a whole styrofoam ball, but I had a piece of it in half in my stash, so I just decided to use that as some foam and floral foam. So I just cut it down to size and then shoved it down inside the planter. Now I'm going to take some Dollar Tree Spanish moss and just hot glue it on top of the foam inside the planter. Once I had the moss glued in, I did just take my finger to kind of separate the moss so that I'm able to place the dowel rod inside. So before I do that, I take the little dowel rod out, use my scissors to make the hole a little bit bigger, and then I can place my dowel rod that I actually want to use inside and then shove it down into the pot. And now I can take my faux, what is that, vines here? I don't know why I keep calling them vines. I know they're technically vines, but it's rope. So I'm going to take my rope vine and I just cut off a large piece, probably a lot longer than I actually needed, but I wanted to make sure that I had enough. I added a little bit of hot glue at the end so that it doesn't fray. And then I'm going to start by gluing it down here at the bottom. And then I'm just going to start wrapping it around. Now, the thing is you don't want to wrap it around really tight to where it is like super up against that trunk of the topiary. You want it to have a little bit of space between the vine rope and the actual trunk. So once I wrapped it going up, I wrapped it again going back down, and again leaving a little bit of space in between each of the wraps. And once I had the look that I liked, I just cut off the excess and hot glued the rope down at the bottom. Oh wait, I'm actually wrong. I did not have to cut any excess off. I actually did cut this to the right size, and I just added a little bit of hot glue at the bottom and wrapped it around so that you cannot see any of that part. And then I'm just going to shove it down into my pot here, down into the floral foam. I did have to make the hole just a little bit bigger, but once I did that, it slid right down inside. And now this project is done, and it is so stinking cute. For this project, I'm going to be using 2 of the wood trucks from Dollar Tree. Yes, the good old wood trucks, guys. I'm going to start off by taking my heat gun and removing the fenders, I do believe these are called. They are also the wood pieces that are above the tires. You're going to remove these circles here, as well as the wood up here by where the back of the truck is. And again, all I did was just take my heat gun and warm up that glue by holding it down on there for a little while, and then all you have to do is pop that off. I did also go ahead and remove the hangers. So you're going to just basically remove all of those pieces, at least on one of the trucks. And then I did go in with some spackling just to fill in the holes from the hangers. Once I had the holes all filled in, I did go ahead and sand off any of the excess spackle. Now, because I'm going to be taking these 2 truck signs and actually putting them together to make an actual truck out of it, I am going to need to remove this wood piece up here, so I go ahead and do that with my heat gun. Don't worry, we will reassemble and put all these back in the spots that they need to go to later on, but for now we want to start actually painting the project and the truck. So I used some white chalk paint, some oatmeal paint, the color oatmeal, and some baking powder or baking soda just to give it a little bit of texture, as well as some more coverage. Adding some baking soda to your paint makes the coverage so good. And I did not necessarily want to just use a white paint. I wanted to add a little bit of off color to the white, so that's why I added the oatmeal. You can by all means paint your truck red, white, blue, green, any color that you would like. And when it comes to painting this, I did paint the entire front and the entire back. I did not necessarily worry about where I knew the wheels were going to be or like the hubcap part of the wheels, but you do want to paint the front and the back. I also took one of these Dollar Tree crates, which I do not end up using, and I painted one end of the crate to go with the truck, but I ended up using something else. So while I was taking the fenders and this like little wood piece here off and heating up the glue to remove it, I noticed that it was kind of starting to burn and darken up the wood. There you see me adding a little bit of hot glue in that hole, which the hot glue or the hole did not bother me. I actually should have just left it because I feel like it gave it some more detail. So I decided to take my heat gun and really darken that wood piece up and burn it up. I will do it with some other pieces later on, so you will get to see that some more. So after I did that, I'm going to take my paint again, and I do go ahead and just glue the fenders back on, and then I'm going to paint those with that white paint as well. I do want to mention that these are the fenders that I took off of the other side of this truck. I took them off and then put them on the other side so that when I glue my truck together, you're going to see the fenders on both sides. I hope that makes sense. I'm trying to figure out a better way to explain it, but I will be able to show you guys a little bit more what I mean later on. Now, when it comes to this little wood piece here, before I actually glue it on, I believe it's supposed to kind of look like this, or at least that's the look that I'm going for. So I want you to be able to see through the slats of wood. So I just placed it where it needs to go and then took a pencil, traced out that inside, and now I'm just taking a little utility knife and just cutting and scoring that away a few times until I am able to just pop that right out. Once I had my piece of the backing cut out, I did just place this on top just to make sure that the hole was big enough. And once I figured it out that it was perfectly fit, I was able to just take my zip sander and sand it down so there's no little splinter pieces. And then I can just take some hot glue, or you can use wood glue, and glued this piece right back down where it belongs. So just let me pull this picture up again really quickly. Look at how good the burning that I did on that wood really looks like this old aged wood in the picture. Okay, now when it comes to doing this second wood piece on the other truck, we're actually going to do it on the opposite side of the side that the tires and the hubcaps and the fenders are on. As you can see, the fenders and the tires are not on this side. I did go ahead and remove the center portion so you can see through those wood slats like I did with the first one. And then I'm going to glue this down with some hot glue on this side of the truck, not the side with the fenders. I promise it will all make sense at the end. Okay, so now the crate that I painted the 1 and 2 earlier in the project, I decided not to use because it was just a little bit too big. So I did decide to use this smaller crate from Dollar Tree, and I also decided to take my heat gun and go around and really darken that wood up and get it nice. You guys, make sure you have some safety precautions nearby. If you do this, I don't necessarily recommend it. You want to make sure you have windows open, or if you can go outside to do it, I would definitely recommend that as well. Once I got the wood crate to the color that I liked, I add some hot glue onto one side, and then I'm going to glue it right here underneath that wood piece that I glued on the inside of the wood truck. And now you can see why I wanted to glue that piece there, because when you are looking at it, even though that's technically going to be the inside of the truck and the fenders are on the other side, when we are looking at the truck, we want to be able to see all those details. So now I'm just taking and adding some hot glue onto the other side of the crate and gluing it down to the other side of the truck as well. A tip when you're doing this is make sure you stand it up so that the wheels are both lined up and where they need to be. Okay, you guys, I'm starting to think I really have a problem with these bamboo sticks because I am constantly using them. I mean, every video that I do, there's probably at least one project where I use these in there, and let me just say, I will have them linked down below. this is definitely something that you really personally need in your craft room. So with these bamboo sticks, all I did was just hold them up and cut them down to the size that I need. And then I'm just going to use some hot glue to glue them right into those spots. But I am going to give them that burnt look as well. So I did go ahead and use my heat gun just to give them that look. And now I'm going to hot glue them in place. Those pieces right here, as you can kind of see there's those wood like slots. I guess you can definitely see it up close, and I'll show you what I mean here, right there. So you can see that it really gives it that finished look, at least in the back of the truck. Next, I wanted to add some stability pieces, so I just took some craft sticks and held them up where I wanted them and just marked down where I needed to cut. And then once I cut a few of these down and just made sure that they were spaced out where I needed them, you can add more or less. I wasn't quite sure how many I was going to need, so I grabbed the material that I'm actually going to be using, and this is the paper. It's not necessarily paper. I believe it's like a cardstock. Let me know down in the comments what that material technically is. But it is a really thick paper, and I'm going to be actually using it to cover the top of my truck and the hood with. And all it is the backing of a Dollar Tree rub-on transfer. So all I'm going to do is just take these wood pieces. I wanted to get that out of the packaging just so I could feel how heavy it was, so I knew how many of these wood stability pieces I would need to put on here. So I just figured out I didn't need that many, so I glued one up at the top and two where the hood is. And now I can start placing this. I'm just going to call it cardstock because you could use cardstock, or you could even use cardboard if you would like, or poster board. I've used popsicle sticks to make a truck before. This curves and bends like absolutely perfect. And I'm just going to use some super glue, wood glue from Dollar Tree, as well as some hot glue, and just place those all over the surface areas. But I do little sections at a time. Like right now I'm doing the back kind of window area of the truck, as well as just the very top of the truck. I am going to cut it down just so I have less that I have to work with, and then add some hot glue on just that edge that I'm going to be gluing down. And then I'm going to I almost put it the wrong way, but I finally turn it the right way, thank goodness. And then I'm just gluing that right as close to the front edge of the truck as I possibly could get it. If it's hanging over, that is completely fine. We are going to get rid of any excess, and it is going to have a smooth, clean finish. For now, I do just go around with my scissors and cut off any of the excess that I can, but don't worry, I will be sanding it down nice and smooth a little bit later on. Now that I have the roof to my truck on, I can start working on the hood, and I just added some hot glue. I didn't worry about the super glue, wood glue. I just used hot glue for this piece, and I'm just going to take that thick paper backing and place it right on top. And then all you have to do is just start taking your hands and your fingers and placing and like kind of rolling the paper over the edges, and just really getting in any grooves or any of the curves that are on the truck. It is super easy to kind of move this paper material around, so I didn't really have any issues at all trying to get it to form to the actual truck shape. I knew I was going to have a little bit of excess paper, so I did just cut some of that off. My bird is going absolutely crazy right now, of course, every time I do a voiceover. Anyways, I cut that excess paper backing off, and then I'm just going to continue to glue the rest of that going around the truck shape. And I'm not super worried about where the hole is for the hanger, because I will actually be covering that up with a little license plate that I'm going to be making. Now that the rest of the truck's hood and front of it is glued on, I can go around and just cut off any of that excess, and I do that on both sides. And then I'm going to grab this it was a dowel rod that I just had on my desk, and it was already painted white. So I just went ahead and cut it down to size, sanded it a little bit so that it was nice and smooth. And then I'm going to glue it right here at this curve in the front, Not really any reason in particular, I just thought it gave it a little bit more detail. Once I had that glued on there, I went ahead around with my zip sander and just started sanding off any of the rest of the excess paper. This is going to give you a super, super close and very smooth finish. I definitely recommend getting any kind of paper or decoupaging or anything like that. If you have a surface that you really need to get a nice smooth edge on, use some sandpaper. It is going to work like a charm. I decided to cut down another one of those little bamboo sticks that I always have, and I also did the burn method with that. And then I'm going to just glue it right here at the back window portion. I feel like it really finishes that look off. I also ended up finding one of those bamboo sticks that I had already painted black, as well as one that was stained brown. I didn't know which one I was going to use at first, but I decided to go with the black one here, and I'm just going to cut it down to size. And this truck has these little tabs off the back side. You can kind of see them there. I was able to just place that and glue it right there in that spot, and it looked like it just belonged. At this point, I was able to take the paint and baking soda mixture and cover the hood as well as the roof of the truck so that it all was the same color. One thing that I definitely want to point out is if you take your paint and paint where the paper and the truck is glued together, that will actually make it look like it's pretty much seamless and it will blend in so well. Once my truck was painted and dry, I wanted to go in with a little bit of shadowing as well as a little bit of distressing. So I took some of the original white colored paint with the baking soda, added it onto a little plate, excuse me, as well as taking some of the brown burnt umber. And I also just mixed a little bit of those two together just to have a few different color options. And to be honest, I didn't really care how the coloring at least turned out. I don't know why, but it kind of had like a purple look to it. So I did just kind of play around here a little bit, going back and forth with the colors. And honestly, it just I wasn't feeling what I was getting. So once I played around with these colors for a little bit, I decided to grab these ink pads that I have. They're like a distressing ink pad. And they come with like a few different packs, and I actually like how they all can kind of clip together. I thought that was pretty cool. I have a really hard time with keeping track of little teeny tiny things in my craft room. So the fact that they can stack together definitely makes it a little bit easier to find. So then I do go in and I try and work with these stamps. And I do like, or ink pads, I should say. I do like the look of this. However, I did not like the fact that I had the purple color in the background from trying the paints out. So I do just end up painting with the original white colored paint over top of this to lighten it back up. But I wanted to show you guys where exactly I'm adding a lot of the coloring and the distressing and some of the shadowing. I go around the windows as well as like the top of the truck and up in front, and just adding any details, again, shadowing, distressing. I am so losing my voice. Any of the distressing that you would personally like. If you do not want to distress, by all means, you do not have to do that. At this point, I was kind of irritated with the distressing and shadowing, so I just took a break from that for a second, and I started working on the back of the truck where it's supposed to look like that burnt wood. Well, on the other side of the truck form, it is still the paint color, so I just used some burnt umber paint to just kind of go in and blend that all together so that it all looks like it is wooden. Once I had the wood look done on the back of my truck, I then went back to the shadowing, at least to cover this up for the most part. I just took some of the original color of the paint and went over wherever that purpley looking color was, and it was basically just on the fenders where I used the actual paints on. So I just went in with that original color and covered that up, and now I'm going to go in with some black paint and just paint the tires. And that was super easy. All I did was make sure when I painted the front tires, you do have to remember to paint the back tires. That's like the hardest part about it. Other than that, it's super easy. Just paint the tires black. I did add a little bit of paint just to enhance the handle of the truck. And then I also did decide where I added that black bamboo piece in the back, where those little tabs are that are sticking out. I just painted those black as well, because then it really makes that black piece back there look like it's the bumper to the truck, and it just ties it all in together. For the rims on my truck, I had a silver metallic paint pen, and all I had to do was just fill that circle in that is glued onto the truck form. And of course, I did that on all the tires. As you guys could, I'm sure, assume, everything that I'm doing on this side of the truck, I will also be doing on the other side as well, so that it all looks like it's the same truck and it all is just cohesive, and you'll be able to look at it from multiple directions. Here is where I just went ahead and started taking the stamp, gosh, why do I keep saying stamp, ink pad, and adding some of those colors in to enhance the curves and to, oh my goodness, you guys, to de-stress the truck a little bit more. I am so sorry about my voice. Every time I have to do a voiceover and talk this long, it's always like, girl, what are you doing? We're not talking this much, like, calm down. At this point, I thought I was done distressing it, but I do end up distressing it a little bit more later on. But for now, I decided I wanted to work on the license plate. This must be like my ADHD in a video, because you guys, I apologize. I have been bouncing all around with this project. It was just kind of like a do as you go project. Every little thing, it was not planned out. Like, I just kind of went as I was going. So here is where I'm making the little license plate out of the paper backing that I made the truck with. And I just put 3 M's for my 3 kids, Mason, McKenna, and Michaela. And then the number 3, because I have 3 children. I distressed it with the ink pad again, and then I just went ahead and glued it right where that hanger hole is on that paper, which also just so happens to be where the license plate normally goes on any normal truck. I decided to take the ink pad and just go around and add a few little distressed spots, and just basically make some of the distressed spots stick out a little bit more, going around like the curves of the fenders and things like that. If I got a little bit too much on there, I just went ahead and blended it in with my finger. I made a different Dollar Tree truck like this years ago, and I made that one light up, which I really enjoyed, that little extra detail. So in order to do the same thing, in order to do the same thing with this one, I took 2 craft sticks and then took a little piece of another one, glued those 2 craft sticks together, held them up underneath the truck, and then just marked and cut down the size that I needed this piece to be. And then once I have it marked and cut down, I'm just going to take a little bit of hot glue and glue it right inside. I'm not gluing it. I want to make sure that it's up in the truck just a little bit. You'll see here as I go and push it down, it's not right there at the very edge of the truck. I push it in a little bit so that you're not going to see any of those wood pieces sticking out from the bottom. I made sure to hold it in place for a second so that the glue had a little bit of time to start setting up, and then it was able to stay up on its own. At this point, I started looking around on the truck, and because I had that black looking bumper in the back, I wanted to kind of add a black bumper in the front, and the front of this truck already had that curve right where a bumper would be. So I just took some black paint and just painted that curve right there, and I think it really pulled off the look for the front and the back. So now it looks like it has 2 bumpers. I feel like this project was all about basically just trying to make it look more and more realistic as I went on. So that's why I just kept adding more and more things to it. It was actually a really fun project to do because I kind of just went as I was going. For example, these googly eyes here, these were a complete afterthought. I was just going to paint or draw little circles on there and paint them in with my paint pen, but I decided to paint some googly eyes. I had several different sizes to choose from. I ended up choosing a nice big size because I felt like that size just went good with the truck. And once they were dry, I just peeled them off. They have their own stickiness on the back, but I did go ahead and just add some hot glue just to make sure that they stayed on. And also add some lights in the back. I decided I wasn't super worried about the lights in the back, but of course you can do that if you would like to. Speaking of lights, that little craft stick platform that we made underneath the truck is for a tea light candle, and I can just turn that on and place it right on that little platform and it will light this truck up. Now it is time for the super fun part, and that is to decorate the truck. Of course, you guys can use whatever you would like, but to kick off the fall season, don't worry, it won't all just be fall. I will be doing other home decor projects as well. It won't all just be fall or Halloween. I understand that it is definitely still summertime. It still feels like summertime. So I'm not trying to rush things too much. So I'm going to just tell you guys what I used for the main parts of decorating this, and I used some Dollar Tree Spanish moss. Everything I do believe was from Dollar Tree. Some of the Dollar Tree clip-on pumpkins, I didn't clip them, I just set them right in. I didn't want to glue anything down because I want to be able to take this stuff out and put stuff in for Christmas, and some regular florals or greenery for next spring and summer, just to be able to change it out and have fun, and this be a home decor piece that can stay up all year long. So along with those clip-in pumpkins, I used some of the little Dollar Tree fake hay bales. These I'm not a fan of. They're like the new hay bales, and the old ones were just so much better. They looked so much more realistic. So I definitely vote to bring the old ones back. But I just made a little stack with those, gluing those together, and placed that in the back. Some Dollar Tree greenery picks, floral picks, some of the Dollar Tree little berries that I just pulled off of picks. Honestly, anything that you would like to put in this truck would look fabulous. I did also put in just a few more of those little hay bales, and I did have some of the little teeny tiny burlap pumpkins from Dollar Tree. I threw in a few of those as well. Once I was done moving everything around a million times, this project was done, and here is how it turned out. Holy moly, you guys, that was a long one. If you watched this video all the way through and made it to the end, leave me a thumbs up emoji down in the comments so I know who you are. I truly appreciate every single one of you guys, especially the ones that watch my videos all the way through. It helps out my channel. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up. That is another free way to help out my channel and let me know to keep making more content. Thank you all for watching, and I truly hope to see you all and a few new friends on the next one. Bye!